Hi, in this video I'll help you get to know your car a little better. At the end of this video I've put together a straightforward infographic that summarizes all the key points. Like, subscribe and comment below. It really helps.
All right, welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're grabbing our detective gear because we are going to solve a very specific and honestly a very common mystery that could be happening under your hood, especially if you happen to drive a V8. So picture this, you're just driving along, everything feels fine, and then bam, that little amber check engine light pops on the dash. You get home, you plug in your little code reader, and it gives you just one code, P0307. And right away, your mind just starts spinning, right? What in the world is a P0307? And, the big question, is this going to be a cheap fix or is my bank account about to take a serious hit? But hold on. Instead of worrying, let's think about this differently. That code, it's not a sentence. It's actually our first big clue in a case that you can absolutely help solve. So let's get this investigation started. Okay, so let's break down that clue. P0307 is super specific, which is great for us. The P03 part tells us it's a powertrain code related to an engine misfire. And that 07 on the end? That's the key. It's pointing a finger directly at cylinder number 7. All this means is that the little controlled explosion that's supposed to happen in that cylinder isn't happening right, and it's throwing the whole engine's rhythm off. Now, in this case, you're the number one witness. You've probably already noticed some of the evidence, right? Maybe your car is shaking at a red light, or it feels kind of sluggish when you step on the gas. You're for sure stopping for gas way more often, and you might even catch a whiff of raw gasoline. But listen, if that check engine light is flashing, that's a whole different ballgame. That's a 5-alarm fire. It means pull over and turn the car off as soon as it's safe. Seriously. And here's where our investigation really gets focused. See, the code isn't P0300. That would mean a random misfire, which is a much bigger headache. No, this code is P0307. It's telling us the problem is isolated to one specific spot, and that is the most valuable clue we could ask for. So why cylinder 7? Well, on a lot of V8s, it's tucked way in the back of the engine bay. This means it's in the hottest spot, it's the last cylinder to get fuel from the fuel rail, and let's be honest, because it's so hard to get to, it's the one that often gets ignored during a tune-up. It's basically the perfect storm of heat, neglect, and potentially less fuel. So knowing that cylinder 7 is our troubled location, we can start lining up the usual suspects. And as you can see, the data points overwhelmingly in one direction. About 2/3 of the time, we're just dealing with a simple ignition problem. Let's run down this list of suspects. First, you've got your ignition issues. This is the most likely culprit. We're talking a worn-out spark plug, a failing ignition coil, simple stuff. Then there's fuel delivery, which is usually a clogged fuel injector that's not spraying gas the way it should. And finally, in that last little slice of the pie, you have the more serious internal engine problems, like low compression. But hey, a good detective doesn't just start guessing and throwing parts of the problem, right? You need proof. And the absolute best, cheapest, and easiest way to get that proof is a little diagnostic trick called the swap test. It's designed to put our number one suspect, the ignition coil, on trial. The logic here is brilliant. First, find cylinder 7, and then find an easy one to get to, like cylinder 1 up front. Second, you swap only their ignition coils. That's the key. Third, clear the codes with your scanner, and then just go for a drive until the light comes back on. And here's the moment of truth. You scan the codes again. Did the code move? Did it change to P0301? If it did, the problem followed the part. Boom, case closed. You found the bad guy. It's the coil. Okay, so this leads to a question a lot of people think about, especially if the car still feels mostly okay to drive. Can I just, ignore it for a while? The answer to that is a huge, resounding no. Ignoring a misfire is like letting an arsonist hang out in a fireworks factory. It's just a terrible idea. And here's why. Every single time cylinder 7 misfires, it's not burning its fuel. Instead, it's just dumping raw, unburned gasoline straight into your blazing hot exhaust system. That fuel then hits the catalytic converter and basically turns it into a furnace, literally melting the precious metals inside. You're turning a small problem into a catastrophic one. So let's talk dollars and cents. Let's look at the stakes. Fixing the actual problem, a new ignition coil, maybe a spark plug, that's usually a repair that's going to run you around $300, maybe even less if you do it yourself. It's not fun, but it's manageable. But if you wait and you let that raw fuel cook your catalytic converter, you are now looking at a completely different repair bill. We're talking $1,500, maybe even more, depending on your car. The cost of just waiting is absolutely massive. So the real takeaway here, the pro-level thinking, is this. When you get a P0307, don't just swap the coil and forget about it. Ask yourself the most important question of all. Why did the hottest, hardest to reach, most neglected cylinder fail first? The answer to that question won't just solve this misfire. It might just tell you the true story of your engine's overall health.